What's up, y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to, you know what I'm going to say, another episode of Breakfast with Mark and Jen,
Yeah.
where we help your Christian marriage thrive. And we've been on this tip lately about how to prepare for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Conversations have been going great,
Yeah.
and we felt like we had yet another way to help you prepare for marriage.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to title this episode Great Expectations.
Okay. I like it.
Because a lot of people go into marriage with these grandiose ideas of what marriage will look like, of what marriage should look like. And sometimes those ideas can get you a little messed up, can get you a little tripped up.
A little.
Yes. And one of the major points we're going to talk about today is the feeling that marriage is 50-50.
Right. Right.
A lot of people think when they get married, the marriage should be 50-50. But if you think about that logic, that line of thinking is actually way off.
Yeah.
Because if you only give you 50% of yourself to something, chances are that thing is going to fail. So if you give yourself 50% to your career, you're not going to have a great career. If you give yourself 50% to, your health, you're probably not going to be as healthy as you could be.
Right.
So why on earth would your marriage thrive if you're only giving 50%?
It makes no sense. It comes from the idea that somehow, because marriage should be down the middle, even though it's never really down the middle. It's always sacrifice.
Yeah.
But it comes from that idea that it needs to be 50-50 down the middle. But when you really think about it, if I put 50% of myself into something, it's gonna fail.
It's going to fail. Marriage is
Absolutely.
actually 100-100.
100.
You know what scripture I thought of as it pertains to this topic? When the Bible talks about husbands and God says, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it.
Yeah.
If the Bible says for a husband to love his wife as Christ loved the church, when has God ever loved you at a 50% level?
I like it.
God always
like it.
loves hard.
Yeah.
He goes hard. He loves at 100% always, no matter the day, no matter the season, no matter what you've done, where you've been, what you've said. He always loves at 100%. So then I have to love my spouse at 100% if I'm going to love my spouse the way Christ loves his bride.
Absolutely.
And loves his church.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about great expectations, unfortunately, some people have the expectation that marriage is 50-50.
Yes.
And the expectations that someone has going into marriage makes all the difference in the world. Like, it really makes a huge difference because, you know what I want to say? I blame Disney. I blame Disney for all of this. I blame Disney for all of this because Disney
Oh no.
painted,
I might have to open my yogurt on this one.
Disney painted a false narrative of what romance, getting married, all that entails.
Okay.
Because they are great at telling the fairy tale story of a princess and a prince. And they've done iterations of that in different ways. Whether you're talking about Rapunzel, you're talking about Snow White, whether you're talking about Cinderella, like all these different iterations. And it makes a girl feel like marriage is what it's not.
But does it only but then how come there's some guys that also think marriage is 50-50? If you're trying to say that Disney is the girl's problem.
Well, I mean, I'm not even saying that because Disney makes a girl feel like marriage is going to be 50-50. I'm saying that Disney is presenting a false narrative. Like marriage being 50-50 is one thing.
Disney don't at us either.
No, at me. I want the actual push. I want you to push the algorithm at me. I'm saying that what happens is a lot of times people have certain expectations of marriage. It's because they've heard or they've seen a false narrative somewhere.
Yeah, I agree.
And we all know that we're shaped by our environment.
Yes.
And so if you grew up in an American culture, especially back in the day, you are bombarded by all of these children movies that show you this fairy tale experience about a woman and a man coming together, a princess and a prince coming together, and it's glamorous. And I think that that cultivates and embeds in a young girl's mind what marriage actually isn't.
Yeah.
So they have these great expectations, and we're going to get to the 50-50, Jen, but I think a part of the great expectations is that maybe that's why a lot of people put so much weight on the wedding, and they don't have enough of the proper expectations for the marriage.
Yeah.
It's because we've been shaped to be like, hey, the wedding is the glamorous fairy tale part. And that's my expectation of marriage. Then you get married and you realize the wedding was just the beginning, and it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
really
The type of
what
wedding you
marriage is
have
going to be
really
like.
usually has no bearing on what type of marriage you'll have.
Right. So I think then, having said all of that, it's easy for someone to go into marriage thinking it's 50-50,
Yeah.
or not thinking they have to sacrifice to the extent or the level that they have to sacrifice because they've been shaped by a fairy tale narrative, and that's where the expectations are.
Yeah.
Like the expectations is we're just going to frolic in the meadows, and
Frolic.
we're just going to, dance and sing and not have a care in the world, and everybody's going to applaud us and be happy. And love is this grandiose thing that makes life perfect.
Yeah, it's true. You actually are hitting the nail on the head there, because it does take more than love to make a marriage work, because you can love someone and they can love you, but if their character is not there, their integrity is not there, if they're not willing to put their level or amount of effort into the marriage that it needs, it
Right.
will still fail. And some people are so nitpicky with it being 50-50. So my husband and I recently witnessed a time when our kids were actually trying to split setting the table down the middle. So we've never really said to them,
It's the worst.
you get the cups and forks, this person gets the plates and napkins, this person gets the charger. I'm particular about like eating off a charger or a placemat. We've never said that. We've just said, you all know how to set the table, just set the table. And one day we caught them because my daughter was like, hey, she said to her little brother, I got the plates, the napkins, and the cups. So now you have to get the utensils. You have to put everything together. You have to get the food from the stove and put it on the table that mom is cooking. And we were like, wait. First of all, it's just not always going to be split down the middle, right? But they're kids, and so they're looking at it like, okay, there's like 15 things to put on the table.
Right.
How do we split that by
Right.
2? But some people go into, they're siblings and they're young. But some people go into marriage feeling like, if I do the laundry twice a month, you have to do the laundry the other 2 times a month. So like there's an A week and there's a B week for laundry. Then there's an A week and a B week for dishes, and an A week and a B week for, no, how about everybody play their position at 100%, and then this marriage is going to thrive. Play your position at 100% and your marriage will thrive, so long as your spouse can also play their position at 100%.
Right. So my question then to you is marriage equal?
No.
Wait. I'm gonna ask you again. Is marriage equal?
No. Is he hard of hearing? I said no. I just wanted to say hard of hearing. I used to love that my mom and grandma would use that phrase. No. Marriage should be fair, but it's not going to be equal.
Okay. I like it.
And the reason why marriage should, some people think that fairness means equal, but it doesn't mean equal. It means it's what you can handle and what you do best, so that's fair.
Thank you.
You're great, Mark, at paying the bills.
Right.
In my parents' marriage, I always saw my mom pay the bills because she's great at that. So I thought I was going to pick that up. But guys, I don't know what it is, but he's just way better at that than I am.
Mm-hmm.
So he makes sure that every month our bills are paid. Out of what income we earn, he makes sure the bills are paid on time.
Right.
Somebody may say, well, Jen, that's not fair for you to put that on him. But he does it effortlessly, and he's great at it. When I'm in charge of it, sometimes we might miss.
And that's where a couple would get into problems, because they feel like paying the bill should be equal. So you
Or it
take,
should be based on gender. Like, oh, you're the man, you should be paying it. Jen, why is your mom pay it? Because in my parents' marriage, she's better and she's more organized.
yeah, and they want, all right, you pay 5 bills, I pay 5 bills,
Right.
and it's equal. That means it's automatically fair.
You're right.
And equality, as you said, doesn't always mean fair.
Exactly.
Fair, actually, it doesn't always mean equal.
Exactly. Do you want a spouse or do you want a roommate? You have to split things evenly with a roommate. With a spouse, you just need to be fair. Because there's a difference. But
I
some
like
of
that.
y'all are some of y'all want to live with a roommate though. I'm convinced. I'm convinced some people want a roommate because everything, oh, I did the dishes on Monday, you have to do them on Tuesday. And there's 7 days in a week and only two of us, so we both have to do them on Saturday. Some of y'all want a roommate.
Yeah, some of y'all are keeping too many receipts when it
Right.
comes to your marriage.
And I do love screenshotting receipts, by the way. Like when I do pay a bill, Mark will tell you, like when my dentist just the other day was like, thank you for paying your bill, I was like, screenshot. Now they said they were sending an email,
Listen.
but I still screenshot it. You know why? Because if Gmail ever decides to go kaputs, I still got my receipt on my phone that I paid my dental bill and I don't owe my dentist anything for the rest of this year.
Listen, you go in when it comes to receipts. So I get it, but there's so many couples out there, like you're keeping too many receipts. And when you keep such a specific, diligent record of everything
Yeah.
that happens in the marriage, you're
Yes.
not actually in collaboration, you're in competition.
That's good. Because it's a competitor that keeps tabs of every little thing that you do.
Right. And you're competing against your spouse undercover because you want everything to be so equal. And we're saying one of
That's
the
good.
great expectations you need to have about marriage is that it needs to be fair. You want to get married to someone that's going to treat you fairly,
You're right.
not equally, because if they're ever going to attempt to treat you equal, then number one, you're going to be doing things you shouldn't be doing.
Exactly.
You're gonna be carrying the trash and picking up lumber when you don't have the
Right, because you
strength,
said you wanted it to be equal.
right? So we both out here building the shed,
Right.
and you should,
Changing light bulbs and all sorts of crazy
and you
stuff.
gonna hurt yourself
Exactly.
because you shouldn't be doing that. But if you ever get married to someone that wants to make marriage equal and not fair, it's gonna be a
It's
frustrating
going to be for,
marriage.
and you know what, Mark? It reminds me of the parable that Jesus gave, where the master gave one 5 talents, one 2 talents, and one talent.
Right.
He was not being an unfair master.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they didn't each receive equal talents, but he assigned them talents, which of course is money,
Mm-hmm.
but he assigned them talents based on what he knew they could handle.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a marriage, you need to come together and discuss what can each person handle effectively and consistently. I cook consistently in this marriage because I actually like it, Mark. It's not just that I can. You know how some people can cook, but they still don't really like to do it?
Right.
I actually enjoy it. Mark doesn't, he enjoys the grill. But the oven and the stove, he's
No.
like, listen, I don't
No.
enjoy that.
No.
And so
No.
I don't ever look at him and say, Mark, there's 52 weeks in a year. I have cooked 50 out of those weeks. So next year you cook 50 and I'll cook 2. I can't even tell you how many weeks out of a year I've cooked versus when Mark has grilled versus when we've eaten, because I'm not keeping a score.
It's
I
so detrimental to your marriage to keep score, keep receipts,
Yes.
and try and make it equal. It doesn't matter whether it's the dishes
Yes.
or if it's picking up the kids, or if it's balancing the budget, working on the money. It doesn't even matter if it's, the bedroom and intimacy. If you're trying to make it equal, then you're going to be in problems.
Now, what do you mean by equal with intimacy?
Because here's the thing, you do for me, I do for you.
Oh, okay.
That's dangerous because you're keeping too much of a score, and you're going to hold it against the person if they don't want to do it that day. Or
Gotcha.
if they don't want to do what you did for them that day. Well, maybe you got to come back the next day,
Right.
and they'll actually feel like it, because equality sometimes doesn't bring in the sensitivity that is necessary for the relationship to be fair.
That's very good.
Because you're just 1+1 = 2.
Yeah.
You did for me in the bedroom, so now I need to do for you. Well, there's emotions, there are feelings, there are nuances attached to that.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with a human, not a robot.
Right.
So you can't be like, it's Tuesday. It has to happen today. It has to happen. Like, you're trying to make it equal because Tuesday's your day. No, maybe it's not going to happen until Thursday.
I think,
or,
sorry.
yeah,
I
I'm
think,
done.
Mark,
But
we forget that just like in the story of the talents, in real life, that was a parable, but in real life, God doesn't treat his children equally.
no.
He treats us fairly based on how he wired us, based on what he's called us to do, and based on what he knows we can handle. So some of the things that he gives me, he will not give another one of his daughters.
Right.
But it's not because he likes me better or likes her better. We won't get the same thing because she and I are called to different ministries. We're called to rear different types of kids.
Come on.
And so God will give me the grace that I need to run my household and children well. And he may give another mom something else, and somebody may look at it and be like, man, he likes Lydia better than he likes Jen. No. It's simply Jen gets what Jen can steward.
Correct.
And
Correct.
all God is asking
Correct.
me to do is steward what I have well. So God gave you the marriage that you can handle. You don't have to be out here saying, well, you know what? I'm going to go out here and find somebody who will split things evenly with me.
Right.
No. If God ordained your marriage, then you trust that he gave you the marriage you're supposed to have. All you need to do is play your position and steward it well.
All you have to do is play your position, steward it well. And going back to the parable you brought up as an example, that the master gave his servants 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent, according to their abilities. You know, when you're talking about marriage and great expectations, sometimes we feel like if we're a 5 talent person, or if we have the ability to handle a lot in life, then we should marry another 5 talent
that's good.
person, and that will help our marriage be equal.
Right.
So maybe your expectation is that you need to find someone that is equal to you, whether in their career, in their ministry,
Right.
in their intelligence. And it doesn't always work that way.
Right.
That you can be compatible with someone, and we're not saying that you could be on opposite ends of the spectrum in certain categories and it'll work. But what we are saying is that don't always look for a partner that will make marriage equal.
Yeah, that's good, Mark.
Maybe the partner that God has for you is just going to make marriage fair.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good. You don't have to, if you're a 10 in, let's say, intercession, because I'm talking spiritually now, right?
And of course, you're talking about prayer.
Prayer,
You
sorry.
always talk about prayer.
Yes. Your spouse doesn't have to be a 10 in prayer. And by that, I mean, yes, they should be praying.
Yeah.
But why does that have to be their first passion? If they're praying consistently and genuinely before God, and they're covering you and the household and everything else attached to you in prayer, but you like to pray 5 times a day,
right?
They pray 2, and all of a sudden they're not a good spouse?
Not a good spouse. Because if I pray an hour, you have to pray an hour. This got to be equal, okay? Has to be 50-50.
Right.
No, it just has to be 100-100. And what we mean by marriage has to be 100-100 is that it requires the ultimate sacrifice in order to work.
Yeah.
You can't sit down on your sacrifice, or you can't withhold your sacrifice and expect marriage to actually work. And so 50% of sacrifice is actually not going to produce, literally not going to produce.
I mean, listen, even 99 and a half won't do, the songwriter said. He said, Lord, I'm running, trying to make 100. Why? Because he knows that in the kingdom of God, 99 and a half. You might think, well, at least let me just get to 99.5. Songwriter said even that will not do. 99.9
Listen,
kills 99.9% of germs. That's not enough for me. If it doesn't kill 100% of germs, I don't want your product. What do you mean you kill 99.9% of germs? So the 0.1%
so you just out here
with?
boycotting Lysol and boycotting?
No, they actually could give me a brand deal if they'd like, because I will use absolutely. But I'm just saying, y'all, don't leave any room for
Right.
error. Don't leave any room for the enemy.
Yeah. 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 You know, it
And some
has
of
to
y'all
be.
not running trying to make 100. Some of y'all walking, and that's why you're at 50%. You're strolling through your marriage, waiting for your spouse to be equal. You on a stroll. You need to be running, trying to make 100. You need to run.
Listen, great expectations matter. The question is, what kind of expectations do you have when it comes to marriage?
Yes.
Make sure you have the right ones. I think just sitting at the feet, figuratively, of people that have been through marriage and can just help give advice
Yes.
will, prepare you, whether you're just starting or you haven't started yet, to just bounce ideas off of and be like, man, when I went into this marriage I expected this and now I'm dealing with this.
Right.
It can actually be an out of nowhere type of storm that rocks your life when you walk into a marriage expecting one thing and you realize it's something else.
Yep.
There's a joke that preachers often
Uh-oh.
talk about and tell, an old joke. Some of the old preachers told me this one, that there was a guy that went to a bar one day and he saw this beautiful lady and she was singing, performing. She was so beautiful that he couldn't take his eyes off of her. So on the spot, he asked her to marry him. And she said yes. He was so overjoyed. They went home. They went into their room. And he was so excited because he felt like he had the most beautiful woman in the world. So she was like, all right, before we get started, let me just get comfortable. So she took off her wig. And he was like, okay, that's not that bad. Then she took off her lashes. He's like, all right, not that bad. Wiped off her makeup. He was like, whoa, all right. Well, still not that bad. Then she took off her leg
Oh, wow.
because she had a prosthetic leg. Then took off the other leg and had another prosthetic leg. And when she stripped down to who she really was, he leaned over to her and said, just get up and sing.
Wow.
Because now I realize who I just married. And it wasn't the girl on stage. So the only thing I can think of that you still can do well is sing.
Wow.
So you need to get up there and sing. And sometimes when you get married, you're like, what in the world did I just marry? Because my expectations were totally different from what I really had
Different than what would be considered realistic.
Yeah, yeah. All right, y'all. You got any more there,
No,
Jen?
I'm good for this one.
All right, cool. This has been another episode of Breakfast with Mark and Jen. We hope and pray that your marriage continues to thrive and reaches all the heights that God wants it to reach. Until next time, we want you to have a good one. Take care.